The Grand Council Chamber of the Galactic Deathworlders Association, GDA, was exactly what you'd expect from a bunch of species who thought they were the deadliest things since quantum black holes. Pretentious, over-decorated, and about as subtle as a supernova in a storage closet. High Admiral Zexthor of the Krigath Empire slouched in his reinforced titanium chair, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's dramatic lighting. He was busy picking his teeth with a ceremonial dagger, because apparently that's what you do when you're trying to look intimidating in front of your fellow Deathworld representatives. Order, order in the chamber, Supreme Chancellor Nixtara bellowed, her 4 sets of mandibles clicking in what she probably thought was an authoritative manner. The chamber's occupants, a collection of the galaxy's most dangerous species, gradually stopped their various displays of dominance, which mostly consisted of flexing additional appendages and secreting threatening pheromones. The 47,293rd meeting of the Galactic Deathworlders Association is now in session, Nixtara continued, her bioluminescent patches pulsing with self-importance. First order of business, updating our rankings of the most lethal species in known space. A collective groan echoed through the chamber. These rankings were about as meaningful as a vacuum suit made of tissue paper, but they spent more time arguing about them than actually governing anything. I motion to move the Krigath to the top spot, Zexthor announced, surprising absolutely no one. We've recently evolved the ability to shoot acid from our secondary throats. Ambassador YXL of the Maraca Hive barely contained their laughter, which sounded like rocks in a garbage disposal. Oh, please, we've been dissolving our prey with acid since before your species figured out how to walk upright. Besides, the Fantics clearly deserve the top spot. They can literally explode at will. And reform themselves, added the Fantics representative, who was currently existing as a shimmering cloud of deadly gas just to show off. The chamber erupted into chaos, with each species trying to outdo the others with increasingly ridiculous claims about their deadly capabilities. The Drachnid delegate started juggling plasma balls, the Nexos representative began a threatening interpretive dance, and someone in the back started singing their species' traditional war cry, which sounded like a garbage disposal fighting with a kazoo. Chancellor Nixtara banged her ceremonial staff against the floor, which would have been more impressive if it hadn't snapped in half from her superior strength. Enough! We are the galaxy's apex predators. We should be acting with more dignity, says the species that hunts by throwing up on their food, muttered Zexthor, just loud enough to be heard. Before Nixtara could defend her species' perfectly respectable hunting techniques, a junior aide burst into the chamber, their anxiety pheromones strong enough to wilt the decorative plants. Chancellors, representatives, we've detected something unusual, a signal from the unexplored sectors. The chamber fell silent except for the Fantics representative, who was still showing off by making small explosion sounds. Well, demanded Nixtara, trying to look imposing while holding her broken staff, what kind of signal? The aide's color spots turned a nervous shade of ultraviolet. It appears to be music. Something called Never Gonna Give You Up by someone named Rick Astley. The council chamber erupted into chaos faster than a quantum reactor with hiccups. Multiple species started talking at once, creating a cacophony that sounded like a planetary demolition crew having a jazz session. Impossible, bellowed Zexthor, accidentally spitting acid on his ceremonial armor in his excitement. That sector is surrounded by Class 12 radiation belts. Nothing could survive there. The junior aide, now practically vibrating with nervous energy, projected a holographic map of the sector. The signals are coming from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. But that's not all we found. Chancellor Nixtara leaned forward, all 6 of her eyes focusing intently. Explain yourself, before I demote you to waste recycling duty. Well, the aide pulled up more data, their appendages shaking. The planet appears to be what we'd classify as an ultra-death world. It has everything: extreme temperature variations, massive gravity wells, regular geological upheavals, aggressive atmospheric conditions, and biological warfare agents they call pollen. The Fantics representative solidified just enough to raise what might have been an eyebrow. And you're telling us something lives there? Something intelligent enough to broadcast signals? Yes, and they appear to be doing something called social media. They're constantly broadcasting millions of images of small furry creatures they keep as companions. They call them cats. The council members exchange glances, which is quite a feat when some of them don't have eyes in the conventional sense. "We need to establish first contact protocols immediately," declared Nixatara, trying to sound authoritative despite still holding her broken staff. "Any species surviving in such conditions must be properly evaluated and ranked." The assembly hall filled with murmurs of agreement, and the occasional threatening display of dominance old habits die hard, especially among apex predators. "I volunteer the Krigath scout fleet," Zexthor announced, puffing up his crystalline thorax. "Our ships are the most heavily armed and the least subtle," interrupted Ambassador Wyxel. "We need stealth for this mission. The Maraka Hive's shadow vessels are clearly the superior choice." Before another argument could break out, the aide cleared their throat, a sound reminiscent of a malfunctioning engine. "Actually, we've already sent probe ships. The footage is, well, you should see for yourself." The holographic display shifted to show various scenes from Earth. The council watched in stunned silence as humans went about their daily lives, doing things that defied all logical explanation. "Are they intentionally jumping out of perfectly functional aircraft?" gasped a council member. "Look at that one. They're willingly entering a ring to engage in recreational combat. Those small ones are climbing on dangerous metal structures for amusement. By the void, they're ingesting capsaicin for entertainment. That's a chemical weapon." Chancellor Nixatara raised all four of her arms for silence. Clearly these creatures are either completely insane or possess capabilities we don't yet understand. We need more information before we proceed with direct contact. "Our initial scans show they're mostly harmless-looking bipeds," the aide continued, displaying more data. "Soft external covering, no natural weapons, relatively weak compared to our species, but what?" demanded several council members simultaneously. "But they seem to have compensated for every single one of their physical disadvantages with something they call technology, and they have a lot of it. Most of it seems designed to either make things more efficient or blow them up, sometimes both at the same time." The council chamber fell into thoughtful silence, broken only by the occasional nervous explosion from the Fantix representative. Finally, Chancellor Nixatara spoke. "We will proceed with caution. Send in the stealth observers. I want to know everything about these humans before we reveal ourselves. Their strengths, their weaknesses, their political structures, their military capabilities, and most importantly," she paused for dramatic effect, "their ranking criteria for these cat videos they seem so obsessed with." As the council members filed out to prepare their respective observation missions, none of them noticed the small red dot appearing on their long-range sensors. A human probe, already headed their way, broadcasting nothing but continuous episodes of something called Rick and Morty. The first official contact between the Galactic Deathworlders Association and humanity went about as smoothly as teaching a Fantix to juggle, which, for those keeping score, usually ends in multiple explosions. High Admiral Zexathor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystalline Devastator, watching Earth grow larger on the main viewport. Despite the Council's decision to approach cautiously, he'd managed to convince them that a proper show of force was necessary. After all, how else would these primitive beings understand their place in the galactic hierarchy? "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "we're detecting numerous artificial satellites orbiting the planet. Most appear to be primitive communication devices, though some are pointing at us." Zexathor dismissed the concern with a wave of his crystalline appendage. "Probably primitive observation tools. Proceed with the standard intimidation approach." The Crystalline Devastator and its escort fleet emerged from stealth mode in a dazzling display of power, positioning themselves in a threatening formation above Earth's northern hemisphere. It was a sight that had made countless species tremble in awe. The humans responded by posting memes about it on Twitter. "Sir," the communications officer clicked nervously, "we're receiving thousands of transmissions. Many appear to be something called TikTok videos of our ships set to various musical arrangements." Before Zexthor could respond, a more official transmission cut through the chaos. The bridge crew watched as a human appeared on their main screen, sitting at what appeared to be a desk covered in coffee cups and action figures. "Greetings, alien visitors," the human said, looking remarkably unimpressed. I'm Dr. Chen from the United Earth Defense Force. Nice ships, very sparkly. Could you maybe move about 3 degrees to your left? You're blocking our Netflix satellite. Zexthor's exoskeleton turned a shade of purple with indignation. You dare address the mighty Krigath Empire with such casualness? We are the galaxy's most fearsome warriors. Dr. Chen sipped from one of his coffee cups. Look, we've been watching you guys for months. Your stealth technology needs work, by the way. We caught most of your observation ships and invited them in for barbecue. The bridge fell silent. The missing observer ships had been a mystery that sparked heated debate in the council. You captured our most advanced stealth vessels? Zexthor's voice cracked slightly. Captured is a strong word. They crashed trying to avoid our weather satellites. Space junk is a real problem, you know? Anyway, your crews are fine. They're currently addicted to something called cat videos and refuse to leave. As if to prove the point, a secondary transmission popped up showing several alien observers cooing over a kitten playing with a ball of yarn. But, Zexthor sputtered, his intimidating demeanor crumbling. You're supposed to be primitive. You don't even have proper natural defenses. Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. You mean like your crystalline exoskeleton? Yeah, we thought about biological armor evolution, but then we invented Kevlar and tanks. Tanks are cool. And how do you survive the extreme conditions of your death world? Air conditioning mostly, also sunscreen. You guys should try it. I noticed your ships have some UV damage on the port side. The sensor officer suddenly chirped in panic. Sir, we're detecting numerous small objects approaching from the planet's surface. Weapons? Zexthor demanded, trying to regain his composure. No, they appear to be tourist shuttles. They're requesting permission to take selfies with our ships. Dr. Chen grinned. Oh yeah, space tourism is big business now. You might want to move your fleet back a bit. The Instagram influencers can get pretty aggressive about getting the perfect shot. Zexthor, mighty warrior of the Krigath Empire, terror of the galaxy's deadliest species, found himself doing something he'd never done before, questioning his life choices. We will need to consult with the Galactic Council about this development, he managed to say. Cool, Dr. Chen nodded. While you're at it, could you explain why your probes keep trying to scan our cats? It's making them nervous, and trust me, you don't want to deal with angry cats. The emergency session of the Galactic Deathworlders Association was going about as well as a Fantix dance party in a munitions factory, which is to say, explosively. They must be hiding their true military might, roared Chancellor Nixtara, pacing across the chamber floor. No species could achieve spaceflight while being so casual, suggested Ambassador YXL. Memeable, offered another delegate. Absolutely infuriating, Nixtara concluded, snapping her third ceremonial staff of the day. Zexthor, still nursing his wounded pride, spoke up from his reinforced chair. Then let's force them to reveal their capabilities. I propose we issue a formal challenge as per the ancient codes of combat. The chamber erupted in approving roars, screeches, and one particularly enthusiastic explosion from the Fantix representative. 24 Earth hours later, the combined fleet of the Galactic Deathworlders Association positioned itself in an attack formation above Earth's major population centers. It was the largest gathering of deadly species since the Great Buffer incident of the previous cycle. Attention, humans, Chancellor Nixtara's voice boomed across all frequencies. We challenge you to demonstrate your worth as a Death World species. Choose your champions and your method of combat. The response came almost immediately, displayed on every ship's view screen. It showed a large arena filled with cheering humans. In the center stood a table with 2 chairs. Greetings, council members, Dr. Chen waved cheerfully, now wearing a t-shirt that read, I met aliens and all I got was this lousy diplomatic incident. We accept your challenge. The contest, hot wing eating competition. Hot wing eating? Nixtara's mandibles clicked in confusion. Yeah, you know, chicken wings coated in increasingly spicy sauces. Last one to give up wins. We're broadcasting it live on all channels. The betting pools are already up to several billion credits. The council members exchanged bewildered looks. They had expected demands for ship-to-ship combat or perhaps ritual ground warfare, not poultry consumption. This is an outrage, Zexthor slammed his crystalline fist on his command console. We demand a proper military confrontation. Oh, that? Dr. Chen shrugged. We already had that while you were talking. Check your secondary systems. Every ship in the Council fleet suddenly discovered that their weapons, shields, and primary power systems had been quietly replaced with an Earth entertainment streaming service. Most were now playing something called Never Gonna Give You Up on repeat. "How when?" Nixatara sputtered. "We got bored waiting for you to finish your dramatic speech," Dr. Chen explained. "Our AI systems thought it would be funny. They have a weird sense of humor. Anyway, about those hot wings." Left with no choice, the Council selected their champion, a Krigath warrior, whose species could literally digest metal. They watched in horror as he faced off against a human champion, a small woman who introduced herself as your regular hot sauce TikTok girl. The contest was streamed across the galaxy. Round after round, the sauces got spicier. The Krigath warrior maintained his dignity until level 3, dubbed mild by human standards, when his exoskeleton began to change colors rapidly. By level 5, getting interesting, he was desperately requesting medical attention. The human champion hadn't even broken a sweat. "How is this possible?" demanded Ambassador YXL. "Those sources are registering as chemical weapons on our sensors." "Oh yeah," Dr. Chen nodded enthusiastically. "Wait until you try our Indian restaurants, or Thai food, or that gas station sushi that somehow hasn't killed anyone yet." As their champion was carried away on a stretcher, babbling about the heat death of the universe being less painful, the Council received another shock. Their fleet's tactical displays lit up with warnings. They were surrounded by a massive armada of human ships that had apparently been there the whole time. "Don't worry about those," Dr. Chen waved dismissively. "That's just the welcome party. We thought you might want to try some other Earth delicacies. We've got pizza, tacos, something called a turducken. You were capable of defeating us militarily this entire time." Nixatara's voice was barely a whisper. "Well, yeah, but where's the fun in that? Besides, your crews seem way more interested in our cats. Speaking of which, would you like to see pictures of my new kitten?" Before anyone could respond, every screen in the Council fleet was filled with images of a small orange cat playing with a toy spaceship. "Its name is Admiral Whiskers," Dr. Chen beamed proudly. "It's already destroyed 3 of our drone ships during playtime. We're thinking of making it our chief of space defense." The Galactic Deathworlders Association, faced with both military defeat and overwhelming cuteness, did the only thing they could. They asked for the recipe for buffalo wing sauce. Following the hot wing incident, the Council demanded a formal inspection of Earth to understand just what kind of death world could produce such terrifying beings. Dr. Chen was more than happy to oblige, though his choice of tour destinations left the alien delegates questioning their sanity. "And this," Dr. Chen announced cheerfully, "is what we call a public gymnasium." The Council members watched in horror as humans voluntarily lifted heavy objects, repeatedly, for no apparent reason other than personal satisfaction. "They're deliberately tearing their muscle fibers?" Ambassador YXL's voice quivered. "For recreation?" "Oh, this is nothing," Dr. Chen grinned. "Wait until I show you CrossFit." Chancellor Nixtara, who had insisted on leading the inspection personally, made frantic notes on her datapad. "Your species intentionally stresses their bodies to become stronger. Fascinating. Disturbing, but fascinating." "You should see what we do for fun," Dr. Chen continued, leading them to their next destination. "This is called an amusement park." The aliens watched as humans strapped themselves into metal contraptions that hurled them through the air at high speeds, their screams of terror mixing with laughter. "These are torture devices?" Zexathor asked hopefully. "Nah, people pay good money for this. That reminds me, who's up for skydiving tomorrow?" The Fantix representative promptly exploded in panic, reforming a safe distance away. The tour continued, each stop more bewildering than the last. They visited a spice market where humans casually handled substances that registered as chemical weapons. They watched surfers riding waves that could pulverize crystalline exoskeletons. They observed children playing in snow, somehow surviving in temperatures that would freeze ionic fluids. "But how?" demanded Nixatara after watching humans eat something called ghost peppers for social media likes. "Your species isn't naturally equipped for any of this." "That's kind of our whole thing," Dr. Chen explained, ordering what he called a triple espresso, his 8th of the day. "We're not the strongest, fastest, or toughest, so we adapted. Can't survive the cold, invent heating, too weak to lift something, build a lever, can't fly, create airplanes. Hell, we got bored with our planet's natural challenges and started inventing new ones." Like these ghost peppers, asked YXL. Exactly. We took perfectly normal plants and selectively bred them to be spicier, because why not? The council members watched as a group of humans nearby participated in something called a Tide Pod Challenge. Your species actively seeks out danger, Nixitara realized with growing horror. You don't just survive your death world, you deliberately make it more challenging. Speaking of challenges, Dr. Chen brightened, who's up for trying something called gas station sushi? Several council members promptly requested emergency evacuation. As the day continued, they learned more disturbing facts about humanity. Humans could temporarily survive in space without protection. They could repair themselves from grievous injuries through sheer stubbornness. They regularly ingested addictive substances like caffeine and sugar for pleasure. And here's the really fun part, Dr. Chen added, showing them global temperature data. Our planet's climate is changing, making everything more extreme. You know what we're doing about it. Evacuating to a more suitable world, suggested Zexathor hopefully. Nah, we're figuring out how to fix it while also planning colonies on even more hostile planets. Mars looks nice this time of year. A bit chilly, no atmosphere worth mentioning, deadly radiation. Should be fun. The council delegation huddled together, their species' various defense mechanisms, all activating simultaneously from stress. One last question, Nixtara managed to ask. Those cats you keep sharing videos of, they're some kind of advanced biological weapon, right? What? No, they're just cute little murder machines we decided to live with because they're fluffy. Want to meet some? The resulting panic nearly caused an interstellar incident. Back on their ships, the council members compiled their findings. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a death world that had produced a species so adaptable, so resilient, and so inexplicably drawn to danger that they made their planet even more challenging for fun. In conclusion, Nixitara wrote in her official report, humans appear to be what you would get if you combine the survival instincts of a cockroach with the curiosity of a particularly suicidal cat, gave them opposable thumbs, and then convinced them that everything, including molecular gastronomy, could be turned into an extreme sport. She paused, then added, P.S. Their coffee substance should be classified as a Class A psychotropic compound. I had one cup and redesigned our entire fleet's propulsion systems. The Galactic Deathworlders Association made one last desperate attempt to maintain their dignity. They challenged humanity to a series of trials designed to prove their superior evolution. It went about as well as trying to arm wrestle a black hole. Next up, announced Zexthor, the Radiation Resistance Challenge. A Krigath warrior stepped forward, his crystalline body specifically evolved to withstand extreme radiation. The human representative showed up in what looked like a fancy jumpsuit. Is that all your protection? Zexathor asked incredulously. This old thing? The human looked down at their suit. Nah, this is just the prototype. The good ones are still in the wash. The human not only survived the radiation chamber but took selfies throughout the entire process, complaining that the lighting wasn't Instagram-worthy. The Fantix representative tried to demonstrate their species' superior adaptability by showcasing their explosion and reform technique. The humans responded by revealing their new quantum phase shifter technology, which they'd apparently invented because it seemed cool. You mean to tell me, Chancellor Nixitara massaged her mandibles in frustration, that you developed faster-than-light technology before you solved your planet's climate crisis? Well, yeah, Dr. Chen shrugged, now wearing a shirt that read, I survived the council trials and all I got was this quantum-entangled t-shirt. Space was right there, looking all interesting. How could we resist? The council's military demonstration was equally humiliating. They proudly displayed their most advanced warship capable of destroying small moons. The humans showed them a TikTok of their experimental self-replicating nanite swarms, which they'd programmed to dance to something called Gangnam Style. But that's impossible, sputtered Ambassador Yikaksel. Your species isn't even unified. You have hundreds of different nations. Oh, that just means we have hundreds of different groups competing to make the coolest stuff, Dr. Chen explained. You should see what happens when we collaborate. Actually, want to watch us test our new zero-point energy reactor? We're live streaming it with commentary from our AI comedy team. The council members watched in stunned silence as humanity casually demonstrated technology that made their most advanced weapons look like pointed sticks. Worse still, They seemed to treat it all as some kind of entertaining hobby. "We don't understand," Nixitara finally admitted. "You have no natural defenses, no evolutionary advantages. By all accounts, you should have gone extinct ages ago. How did you become this?" Dr. Chen thought for a moment, absently petting Admiral Whiskers, who had somehow teleported aboard the Council flagship. "I guess we just never got the memo about being limited by our natural capabilities. Every time we found something we couldn't do, we just invented a way to do it anyway. Do you know we used to throw spears at mammoths until they got tired, just followed them around throwing sticks until these giant beasts collapsed from exhaustion?" The council members stared in horror. "You know what's really fun?" Dr. Chen continued, grinning. "We're pretty sure there are laws of physics we haven't discovered yet. Want to help us break them?" The Galactic Deathworlders Association, faced with the reality that they had encountered a species that treated universal constants as mere suggestions, did the only sensible thing left. They proposed an immediate alliance, if only to ensure humanity remained amused enough not to turn their terrifying creativity against the rest of the galaxy. As the Council fleet departed Earth's orbit, each ship's AI had been upgraded with human memes. Their crews were addicted to cat videos, and their weapons had been redesigned to be more aesthetically pleasing by human AI art programs. "Next time," Dr. Chen called after them, "bring snacks. We're thinking of hosting an interstellar chili cook-off." The resulting faster-than-light evacuation set a new speed record. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy had changed in ways that made quantum uncertainty look predictable. The Galactic Deathworlders Association had undergone what they called a strategic reorganization, but what was actually an existential crisis with paperwork. Chancellor Nixitara stood before the council, reading the latest report. "Humanity has successfully established colonies on Mars, Venus, and several moons of Jupiter. They're calling it practice for extragalactic exploration." "Surely they'll take centuries to terraform these worlds?" asked Zexathor hopefully. "They're not bothering with terraforming," Nixitara clicked her mandibles nervously. "They're just inventing new ways to survive in hostile environments. They're calling it the Hold My Beer and Watch This initiative." The council chamber, once decorated with trophies of military victories, now featured a wall of human social media posts. Most of them were cats. Nobody had dared to take them down after discovering that Admiral Whiskers had somehow gained administrative access to their defense networks. "At least they're contained to their solar system," Ambassador YXL offered. "About that," Dr. Chen's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. He materialized in the center of the chamber, courtesy of humanity's new quantum tunneling teleporter technology, which they'd developed because walking was getting boring. "How did you get in here?" demanded Nixitara. "This chamber has the highest security in the galaxy." "Oh, we've been able to bypass your security since day one," Dr. Chen smiled, now wearing a shirt that read, "Schrodinger's cat is both dead and alive, but mostly just annoyed. We were just being polite." The chamber fell silent. "Being polite?" Zexathor's crystalline structure nearly cracked from shock. "Well, yeah, you guys seemed really proud of your defenses, and we didn't want to hurt your feelings. By the way, humanity just voted to explore what's on the other side of black holes. Want to come along? We're packing snacks." The Fantix representative didn't even bother reforming after their panic explosion. "You mean to tell us," Nixitara's voice trembled, "that all this time, while we were trying to intimidate you—" "We were mostly worried about making you feel bad," Dr. Chen nodded. "I mean, you guys tried so hard with your invasion fleet. It was kind of adorable, like watching kittens try to look fierce." The council members looked at each other as the full implications sank in. They hadn't been dealing with a surprisingly capable primitive species. They'd been dealing with an advanced civilization that had been treating them like overly aggressive toddlers. "If you'll excuse me," Dr. Chen checked his quantum watch, "I need to get back to Earth. We're testing our new reality manipulation drive today. Also, Admiral Whiskers is about to knock a cup off my desk in 3 dimensions simultaneously." Before he vanished, he turned back with a grin. "Oh, and we're hosting an intergalactic potluck next week. Bring whatever dishes your species considers extremely dangerous. Our competitive eating champions are getting bored." After he left, Chancellor Nixitara made 2 additions to the official council records. First, Earth was reclassified from Death World to Please Don't Let Them Get Bored World. Second, she added a personal note. In retrospect, we may have slightly miscalculated when we assumed we were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The truly terrifying ones are those who have nothing left to prove and who think of reality-bending technology as a hobby to pass the time between cat videos. As if to punctuate her point, every AI in Council space simultaneously began playing Never Gonna Give You Up, a song that had somehow become the galaxy's new official anthem. Somewhere on Earth, Admiral Whiskers knocked a coffee cup off a desk, causing quantum fluctuations in 7 different dimensions. The humans called it cute and posted it online.